Welcome to the Fluent Storybook. Have you ever wondered how native English speakers really talk? Do you want to sound natural when you speak English? Do you want to understand conversations without getting lost? In this video, I'll show you exactly how people talk in English through real stories and practical examples. This isn't about grammar rules or textbook phrases. This is about real communication. Let's begin. Chapter 1. The First Conversation. My name is Maya. I'm 24 years old and I live in Toronto, Canada. 6 months ago, I could barely say 3 sentences in English. Today, I work in a coffee shop. I have English-speaking friends and I understand almost everything people say to me. How did this happen? Let me take you back to the beginning. I arrived in Toronto on a cold January morning. The airport was huge. People were everywhere. They spoke fast. Too fast. I heard words, but I couldn't understand them. A woman at the information desk smiled at me and said something. I just stared at her. She spoke again, slower this time. Do you need help finding your gate? I understood help and gate. I nodded. She pointed down the hallway. I said the only thing I could think of. Thank you. She smiled warmly. You're welcome, honey. Have a safe flight. That word, honey, confused me. I knew it meant something sweet you eat, but why did she call me honey? Later, I learned that people in English use words like honey, dear, and sweetie to be friendly. They don't mean the actual food. They mean kindness. This was my first lesson. English isn't just words. It's also culture. It's warmth. It's the way people connect. When I got to my apartment, my landlady was waiting. Her name was Susan. She was about 60 years old with short gray hair and a big smile. She shook my hand firmly and said, "Welcome. You must be exhausted. Let me show you around." I understood most of it. Welcome was clear. Exhausted was new, but from her face and the way she said it, I guessed it meant very tired. She walked me through the apartment, pointing at things. This is the kitchen. The stove is a bit old, but it works fine. The bathroom is down the hall. Make yourself at home. Make yourself at home. Another strange phrase. How do I make myself a home? I smiled and nodded, pretending to understand completely. Over the next few days, I realized it just meant relax and feel comfortable here. Susan was patient with me. When I didn't understand something, she would say it differently. She didn't just repeat the same words louder like some people do. She found easier words. One morning, she knocked on my door. "Maya, I'm heading to the grocery store. Want to come along?" I understood grocery store and come. I said yes. At the store, I watched how she talked to the cashier. "Hey, how's it going?" the cashier asked. "Not too bad. Yourself?" Susan replied. "Can't complain. That'll be 47.30. Here you go. Keep the change. Thanks a bunch." This conversation was so fast, so natural. But I noticed something important. They didn't use complete formal sentences. They used short phrases. Not too bad. Instead of, "I am doing well." Yourself? Instead of, "How are you doing?" Thanks a bunch. Instead of, "Thank you very much." This is how real people talk. They use shortcuts. They use casual expressions. They don't sound like textbooks. I decided right then. I wanted to talk like them. Not like a student reading from a book, but like a real person having a real conversation. That evening, Susan invited me for tea. We sat in her kitchen with warm cups in our hands. She asked me about my home country, my family, my plans. At first, I struggled to answer. I knew the words in my head, but they wouldn't come out smoothly. Susan didn't rush me. She waited. When I said something wrong, she didn't correct me harshly. She just repeated what I meant to say naturally in her response. For example, I said, "I am coming from a small city." She replied, "Oh, you come from a small city? That's lovely." I heard the correct way without feeling embarrassed. I made a mental note. Come from, not coming from. This was another lesson. The best way to learn is by having real conversations with patient people. Susan became my first English teacher, though she never called herself that. Through our daily chats, I learned how people really talk. I learned that yeah is more common than yes in casual speech. I learned that gonna means going to, and wanna means want to. I learned that people often start sentences with so or well when they're thinking. After 2 weeks, something changed in me. I stopped translating every word in my head. I stopped worrying about perfect grammar. I just tried to communicate. And slowly, conversation became easier. Chapter 2. Understanding Natural Speech. 3 weeks into my life in Toronto, I got a job at a local coffee shop called The Daily Grind. The manager, Carlos, was from Mexico. He had been in Canada for 5 years. His English was excellent, but he told me he still made mistakes sometimes. "The important thing," he said, "is that people understand you. Don't stress about being perfect." On my first day, I was terrified. I had to take orders, make drinks, and chat with customers. The coffee shop was busy. People spoke quickly. They used slang I didn't know. They had different accents. The first customers of the day smiled at me. "Hey, can I get a grande latte with oat milk, extra hot, with a pump of vanilla?" I froze. Grande? Pump? I knew latte and milk, but the rest was a blur. I must have looked confused because she immediately said, "Sorry, a large latte with oat milk, really hot, and a little bit of vanilla flavor." Yes, of course," I said, relieved. She laughed. "First day?" "Yes, first day," I admitted. "Don't worry, you'll get the hang of it." She was so kind. Get the hang of it. I had no idea what that meant, but her tone told me it was encouraging. Later, Carlos explained, it means to become good at something through practice. As the day went on, I heard patterns. People didn't just say hello, they said, "Hey, hi there, morning," or "How's it going?" They didn't just say thank you. They said thanks, cheers, appreciate it, or thanks a lot. I also noticed something interesting about questions. When people asked, "How are you?" they didn't always want a real answer. It was just a greeting. The expected response was usually, "Good, thanks. how about you? Or, not bad, you? One customer asked me, how are you? And I started to tell her about my day in detail. She looked a bit uncomfortable. Carlos pulled me aside gently later and explained that how are you in casual conversation is usually just a polite greeting, not a real question. A short, positive answer is best. This confused me at first. Why ask if you don't want to know? But I learned that this is just how English speakers are polite. It's a ritual, a way of acknowledging each other. Throughout that week, I made a list of phrases I heard again and again. No worries, it's okay, don't worry about it. Sounds good. I agree, that's a good idea. Fair enough. I understand, that makes sense. I hear you. I understand what you mean. You bet. Definitely, you're welcome. For sure. Yes, definitely. My bad. My mistake. I'm sorry. Hang on. Wait a moment. These weren't in my textbooks, but they were everywhere in real conversation. I also noticed how people used short responses to show they were listening. Uh-huh. Right. Oh, wow. Really? That's crazy. I know, right? These little words kept the conversation flowing. One regular customer, an older man named Tom, always chatted with me. He spoke clearly and wasn't in a hurry. He taught me without knowing it. He'd say things like, Maya, what's the weather looking like today? Or, how's business been this morning? I learned that looking like in this context means expected to be. How's business been means have you been busy? Tom told me stories about his life. He used vivid expressions. It was raining cats and dogs, raining very heavily. I was over the moon, extremely happy. She drove me up the wall. She annoyed me a lot. At first, these idioms made no sense, but Tom always explained them when he saw my confused face. He'd laugh and say, Sorry, that's just an expression we use. It means I realized that native speakers don't actually use formal, perfect grammar all the time. They break rules. They start sentences with and or but. They use sentence fragments. They interrupt themselves. They change topics mid-sentence. They say things like, so I was walking to the store, right? And this guy, honestly, I don't know what to think. The thing is, though, it's just so complicated. This is natural speech. It's messy. It's real. It's full of fillers like, like, you know, I mean, sort of, kind of. At first, I thought these words were wrong, but Carlos explained, these are actually important. They give you time to think. They make you sound more natural. Just don't use them too much. By the end of my first month at the coffee shop, I could understand most conversations. Not because my vocabulary suddenly became huge, but because I learned to listen for context. I learned to catch the main idea, even if I didn't know every word. I also learned to ask for clarification without feeling bad. Sorry, could you say that again? Or, what does that mean? Or, I didn't catch that. Could you repeat it? People were always kind. They never made me feel stupid for not understanding. This gave me confidence to keep trying. Chapter 3. The Power of Small Talk. 2 months into my Canadian life, Susan invited me to a neighborhood barbecue. I was nervous. Meeting many English speakers at once felt overwhelming, but Susan encouraged me. "It'll be good practice," she said, "and the people are lovely." When we arrived, there were about 20 people in someone's backyard. Music played softly. People stood in small groups talking and laughing. I felt my heart beat faster. Susan introduced me to her friend Margaret. "Margaret, this is Maya. She just moved here from overseas." "Oh, wonderful. Welcome to the neighborhood," Margaret said with a warm smile. "Where are you from?" "I'm from Thailand," I replied. "Thailand? Oh, I've always wanted to go there. Is it as beautiful as everyone says?" "Yes, very beautiful. Many beaches and temples." "That sounds amazing. How are you finding Toronto?" "Finding?" I hesitated. I knew find as something you do when you lose something. Margaret saw my confusion. "Oh, I mean, how do you like it here? Are you enjoying Toronto?" "Oh, yes. Yes, it's very nice, but very cold." I laughed. "Tell me about it. This winter has been brutal." She laughed too. We talked for a few more minutes about the weather, about my apartment, about the coffee shop. The conversation was light, easy. This was what people call small talk. Before Toronto, I thought small talk was a waste of time. Why talk about the weather? It's boring. But now I understood. Small talk is how people connect. It's how strangers become comfortable with each other. It's the bridge to deeper conversations. Throughout the evening, I noticed patterns in how people started conversations. "So how do you know Susan? Great weather we're having, isn't it? Have you tried the potato salad? It's delicious. I love your jacket. Where did you get it?" These were all simple, friendly openings. They gave me something easy to respond to. They didn't require complex thoughts or perfect grammar. I also learned that it's okay to have short exchanges. Not every conversation needs to be long. Sometimes people just said, "How are you?" "Good, thanks." "You?" "Great, thanks." And that was it. They moved on. No offense, just a friendly acknowledgement. As the evening went on, I relaxed. I joined a group talking about movies. I didn't know all the films they mentioned, but I listened. When someone asked me, "Have you seen any good movies lately?" I talked about a film I watched with Thai subtitles and English audio. They were interested. They asked questions. I answered. Sometimes I didn't know the right word, so I described it. For example, I couldn't remember the word plot, so I said, "The story, what happens in the movie." They understood perfectly. One man, a teacher named Robert, gave me valuable advice. "Maya, your English is really good, but can I suggest something?" "Yes, please," I said. "When you speak, don't apologize so much. I noticed you say sorry, and my English is not good often. But your English is fine. We understand you. Be confident." This surprised me. I didn't even realize I was doing it. But he was right. I had been saying, "Sorry, my English is bad," as a reflex. From that night on, I tried to stop. Instead of apologizing, I just spoke. The barbecue taught me something important. English speakers value confidence more than perfection. They appreciate when you try. They don't judge small mistakes. They care about connection, not grammar rules. Before I left, Margaret gave me her phone number. "Let's have coffee sometime," she said. A month ago, I would have been too scared to accept. But now I said, yes, I would love that. Small talk had become my gateway to real relationships. Chapter 4. Learning Through Listening. Around my third month in Toronto, I discovered podcasts. Carlos mentioned that he improved his English by listening to podcasts during his commute. "It's like having English in your ears all day," he said. I asked him to recommend some. He suggested starting with ones for English learners, like All Ears English or 6-Minute English from BBC. But he also said, once you feel ready, listen to regular podcasts for native speakers. That's when you really start learning how people talk. I started with learner podcasts. They spoke clearly and slowly. They explained vocabulary. It was helpful, but I wanted more. I wanted to hear real, natural English at normal speed. So, I found a podcast called Modern Love from the New York Times. People read their stories about relationships and life. The stories were emotional and interesting. The speakers talked naturally, sometimes fast, sometimes with emotion. Sometimes they paused or laughed or cried. At first, I understood maybe 60%, but I kept listening. I listened to the same episode multiple times. The first time, I caught the main idea. The second time, I understood more details. The third time, I started noticing expressions and phrases. I learned that people use the word like not just for comparisons, but also to introduce examples or to soften statements. I was like super nervous. It felt like the world was ending. He's like the nicest person ever. I learned how people emphasize words for emotion. I was so tired. It was amazing. I really appreciate it. The emphasis changes the meaning. It shows feeling. I also started watching TV shows. Susan recommended Friends because it's popular for learners. The characters speak clearly, and there are many episodes. I watched with English subtitles first, then without. I learned so much from Friends. How friends joke with each other, how they tease and laugh, how they use sarcasm, saying the opposite of what you mean, how they show support. "I'm here for you." "That sucks. You got this." One episode taught me about rhetorical questions. Questions that don't need an answer because the answer is obvious. Could I be more obvious? I was very obvious. Is the Pope Catholic? Yes, obviously. These don't exist in my language the same way, so it was fascinating to learn. I also watched YouTube videos, cooking channels, travel vlogs, interviews. I chose topics I genuinely enjoyed, so watching didn't feel like study. It felt like entertainment. From cooking videos, I learned kitchen vocabulary and instruction language. Go ahead and chop the onions. You want to make sure it's nice and crispy. Give it a good stir. From travel vlogs, I learned how people describe experiences. This place is absolutely stunning. I'm blown away by the scenery. It's definitely worth visiting. Every day, I spent at least 1 hour listening to something in English. On the bus, while cooking, before bed. My ears got used to the rhythm of English, the speed, the intonation. I noticed that understanding spoken English isn't just about knowing words. It's about recognizing and connected speech, how words blend together. Want to sounds like wanna, going to sounds like gonna, and reduced sounds, I don't know, often sounds like I don't know. Contractions. I'm, your, can't, won't. Native speakers almost never say, I am going to do it. They say, I'm gonna do it. In casual speech, this is completely normal. One day at the coffee shop, a customer said something very fast. Can I get a skinny lot with wit a cocklet? My ears, now trained from months of listening, caught it. Can I get a tall, skinny latte with white chocolate? 6 months ago, that would have sounded like gibberish. Now, it was clear. My brain had learned to separate the words even when they ran together. Listening had transformed my understanding. I no longer needed people to slow down so much. I could follow normal conversations, TV shows, and podcasts. My brain had adapted to the rhythm of real English. Chapter 5. Speaking like a native. By month 4, my goal shifted. I didn't just want to be understood. I wanted to sound natural. I wanted to speak with the same flow and rhythm as native speakers. Susan noticed my improvement. Maya, your English has come so far, but you still sound a bit formal sometimes, like you're reading from a textbook. She was right. I would say things like, I must go to the store to purchase some bread. When native speakers would just say, I need to grab some bread from the store. Grab instead of purchase. Need to instead of must. Some bread instead of some bread. The native version was shorter, simpler, and more natural. Susan suggested I pay attention to phrasal verbs, verbs combined with prepositions that create new meanings. These are everywhere in casual English. Wake up, stop sleeping. Get up, rise from bed. Look up, search for information. Look after, take care of. Run into, meet unexpectedly. Put off, postpone. Turn down, reject, or decrease volume. Figure out, understand or solve. At first, phrasal verbs frustrated me. Why say figure out when you can just say understand? But I realized that native speakers use them instinctively. They sound more casual and conversational. I started replacing formal verbs with phrasal verbs. Instead of postpone, I said put off. And instead of investigate, I said look into. Instead of continue, I said keep going. My speech immediately sounded more natural. I also learned about intonation, the music of English. The way your voice goes up and down changes meaning. A flat, monotone voice sounds robotic. A voice with natural rises and falls sounds engaging and native-like. For example, questions often have rising intonation at the end. Are you coming? Voice goes up. But what questions usually have falling intonation. Where are you going? Voice goes down at the end. Showing surprise or interest requires a bigger range. Really, that's amazing. Big ups and downs. I practiced by copying the speakers I heard in podcasts and shows. I mimicked their rhythm. I recorded myself and compared. Slowly, My English started to sound less stiff and more alive. Another thing I focused on was using contractions consistently. Native speakers almost always use contractions in casual speech. I'm not I am. He's not he is. We're not we are. A don't a not do not. And a can't not cannot. Saying I am not sure sounds too formal. I'm not sure sounds natural. I also learned colloquial expressions that native speakers use constantly. No way, expressing disbelief. You're kidding. You must be joking. Tell me about it. I completely agree. That's the thing. That's the point. It depends. It varies based on circumstances. Whatever works, any option is fine. I started using these in my daily conversations. People responded more warmly. I sounded less like a student and more like a friend. At work, I practiced with Carlos. We'd have mock conversations where I tried to speak as naturally as possible. He'd point out when I sounded too formal. For example, I said, I apologize for the delay. He suggested, sorry for the wait, or even just sorry about that. Shorter, simpler, better. One breakthrough moment came when a regular customer, Emma, said to me, Maya, I can barely tell English isn't your first language anymore. You sound so natural. That compliment meant everything. It showed that months of listening, practicing, and pushing myself had paid off. I wasn't perfect, I still made mistakes, but I sounded like a real person having real conversations. I learned that sounding native isn't about accent. Accents are beautiful and unique. It's about rhythm, word choice, and confidence. It's about speaking the way people actually speak, not the way textbooks say they should speak. Chapter 6. Dealing with difficult moments. Not every conversation went smoothly. There were moments of confusion, embarrassment, and frustration. But these moments taught me the most. One day, a customer made a joke I didn't understand. She said, Well, that's just the tip of the iceberg. I knew the Titanic hit an iceberg. But what did that have to do with her story? I smiled and nodded, pretending to understand. Later, I asked Carlos. He laughed and explained, The tip of the iceberg means the small part you can see, but there's a much bigger part hidden underneath. It means there's more to the story. Oh! I felt silly for not asking right away. Carlos said, Don't be afraid to ask. People appreciate it when you want to understand. Just say, Sorry, what does that mean? Or, I'm not familiar with that expression. He was right. The next time I didn't understand something, I asked. The person was happy to explain. No judgment, no annoyance, just kindness. Another challenge was talking on the phone. In person, I could see facial expressions and body language. On the phone, I had only words. This made understanding harder. My landlady called me one day and spoke quickly about a repair. I missed half of what she said. I panicked. Should I pretend I understood? Should I ask her to repeat everything? I decided to be honest. Susan, I'm sorry, the connection is bad. Could you please repeat that more slowly? She did. Problem solved. Being honest about difficulty was better than pretending. I also struggled with group conversations. When 3 or 4 people talked at once, I couldn't follow. They interrupted each other. They referenced things I didn't know. I felt lost. Margaret noticed this at a dinner party. She pulled me aside gently and said, "Don't feel bad if you can't follow everything. Even native speakers sometimes lose track in big groups. Just jump in when you can. Ask questions. People love when you're engaged." Her advice helped. I stopped trying to understand every single word. Instead, I focused on the main topic. When I had something to say, I said it. "Wait, what are we talking about?" Or, "Can someone explain?" People were always willing to catch me up. I also had moments where I said the wrong word and people misunderstood. Once, I told someone I was embarrassed when I meant to say ashamed. Another time, I confused boring, not interesting, with bored, feeling uninterested. These mistakes happened, but people corrected me kindly, and I learned. Mistakes weren't failures. They were steps forward. One difficult moment I'll never forget. I was at a party, and someone made a cultural reference I didn't understand. Everyone laughed. I didn't. I felt like an outsider. But then someone saw my confusion and explained the reference. Everyone nodded and smiled at me. They didn't make me feel bad for not knowing. They welcomed me into the conversation. I realized that even when you speak English well, there will be cultural gaps. Movies you haven't seen. TV shows you don't know. Historical events you're unfamiliar with. That's okay. You can ask, you can learn. Nobody expects you to know everything. The key is resilience. Keep trying. Don't let embarrassment stop you. Every difficult conversation makes the next one easier. Chapter 7. The moment it clicked. 5 months after arriving in Toronto, something magical happened. I had a full, natural conversation in English without thinking about it. I was at a park with Margaret. We sat on a bench with coffee. We talked about her daughter, her work, her upcoming trip to Montreal. I listened. I responded. I asked questions. I laughed. I shared my own stories. And then, suddenly, I realized I wasn't translating in my head. I wasn't searching for words. I wasn't thinking about grammar. I was just talking. This was the moment. The moment when English stopped being a foreign language and started being my second voice. Margaret must have seen something in my face because she asked, "What is it?" I said, "I just realized. I'm thinking in English now, not in Thai. In English." She smiled. "That's amazing, Maya. That's when you know you've really got it." Thinking in English changed everything. Conversations became faster, smoother, more natural. I wasn't spending mental energy translating. I was just communicating. I also started dreaming in English. At first, just a few words or phrases, then full conversations. One night, I had an entire dream where I argued with someone in English. When I woke up, I laughed. My brain had fully embraced this new language. At work, customers started asking me for recommendations. "What's your favorite drink?" "Is the blueberry muffin good?" I answered confidently. I made small jokes. I built rapport. One regular, an elderly woman named Grace, told me, "You've become such a joy to talk to, Maya. When you first started, you were so quiet. Now, you're bright and chatty." Her words filled me with pride. I had transformed from a scared, silent learner into someone who could connect with people in their language. I wasn't perfect. I still made mistakes. I still encountered words I didn't know. But I had crossed a threshold. English was no longer a subject I studied. It was a tool I used. This is how people talk in English. Naturally, casually, with contractions, phrasal verbs, idioms, and imperfect grammar. They use small talk to connect. They emphasize words for emotion. They ask questions without expecting long answers. They tell stories with pauses and fillers. And now, you know this too. You don't need to memorize every rule. You don't need a perfect accent. You just need to start. Speak. Listen. Practice. Connect. English isn't just a language. It's a bridge to the world. And you're already on your way across. Thank you for watching the Fluent Storybook. If this story helped you, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'll continue sharing real stories and practical lessons to help you master English naturally. Keep learning, keep speaking, keep growing. See you in the next story.